This brand new computer is actually old, but new at the same time, and I'm okay with that. You're looking at the Apex R3X, and I think we're at a kind of a really weird spot. Got a bunch of greedy weirdos at the top, and they've signed 1 million contracts to try to take all of the computers away from us. However, what they didn't take into account was the fact that a lot of the AAA games that people need $5,000 graphics card for are not as good as the games that you can play with a couple $100 graphics card. And so that's why I agreed to take a look at this Apex R3X, because this is using AM4 hardware. That's the socket that just will not go away. It's okay. It's what I've got in my primary PC. I've got AM4 still, and I'm still using DDR4. This one also has DDR4, but they've done something interesting here is they've given us a modern GPU. You've got a 5050 on the inside, so that'll do, DLSS. It's really good for 1080p and also 1440p games with most modern AAA fancy games. And I use that as like a benchmark. I always say, oh yeah, you can play the AAA games and stuff, but if you can play those, you can play virtually all of the indie games, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of indie games. So I'm going to break down what's in the system. We're going to talk about the specs. We're going to talk about the benchmarks. And then we're just going to talk about the weird state of the world that we're in right now, where we're, getting motherboards and CPUs that are multiple years old and then putting graphics cards that are not desired by the AI bros and putting those in here. And we're still getting a new computer that can play all kinds of stuff. I think in this next year, I'm going to be making a lot of videos talking about retro hardware. Let's build a computer that's 10 years old. Let's build a computer that's 15 years old, because that's where the good games are. That's where the games lurk that don't have AI. That's where the games reside that don't have microtransactions, always online nonsense, gambling mechanics and stuff. Those are the games. Those are the real games. And until the AAA industry learns, well, I think we should be playing those games. Let's get to our backlogs and check this out. So first off, let's go through the spec list here with hardware info. Activate Windows, huh? They gave me a version that they loaded up with a whole bunch of stuff. Now, when they ship these PCs out to you, it's going to be sys-prepped, which means it's just going to be a clean copy of Windows with, whatever other drivers and stuff that's specific for this PC. It's all going to be ready to go for you. Now, the version that I'm looking at here is for reviewers, and they put some testing stuff on the screen so I can see, how they did things and what they tested. So you got the Ryzen 5 5500. Now that's 6 cores and 12 threads. They're all big cores and big threads and everything. You got 16 megabytes of L3 cache on that as well. They've got the ASRock A520M inside there, and I actually really like ASRock motherboards. 16 gigabytes of memory. It's 3600, I believe. So yeah, that's DDR. And then cache latency of 18. So it's going to feel decently snappy. And we're running this in dual channel right there. Got 2 of them. Over here, we've got our NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5050, and that's a Zotac branded card, and it's extremely silent. PCI Express 5, how about that fancy little thing? And then our NVMe is by 4. As far as the different ports and stuff, network port is Realtek RTL 8168, it's gigabit, and then down here for the Wi-Fi, Realtek 8851BU, and that is Wi-Fi 6 plugged in. It is just a little USB dongle that they have included. So if you don't need that, unplug it and you can recover one of your USB ports. I want to talk about the case because I like it a lot more than I thought I would. Usually with these, they're flashy and cool and all, but they don't have a lot of features. But this one, you got 2 tempered glass. It's reflecting the whole room. That's like all the way across the room. That's my Bubblegum Crisis box set and the Star Trek box set right there. But that's like an hour away. So yeah, it's really reflective. Anyway, you got your, you know what? There we go. Now you can see what's up. Okay, fun enough. We're just using a little webcam here to take a look at this. But I love the fact that this is just like a motherboard tray and then 2 glass panels. There's some room behind the motherboard tray for more stuff. But there is so much room in here. I also like the fact that we don't have water cooling. I know that's a weird thing to say, but water cooling requires far more maintenance than these, and this makes no noise whatsoever. So this is a correct decision right here. This is also one of my favorite coolers. I believe this is a Thermalright Assassin. It's like the same one I put into my last 2 or 3 different builds because for the money, it stays really cool and it's super, super quiet. There's your T-Force memory, 16 gigabytes of that. There's your 1 terabyte M.2 down there. There's that Zotac. This is a 5050. You can also get 5060 if you want to. I found 5050 to be just fine for most things. And then over there, you got SATA. They've nicely. They've run a few cables back there in case you wanted to put some SATA drives back here. See, they'll mount right here on this. You can mount them behind there. Or, I mean, really, SATA drives don't have any moving parts, so you could just throw them back there if you wanted to. But you got so much room for activities. And you can see, even up here, there's spots where you can like mount things, you know, if you wanted to. There, check that out. See, you got slotted spots on the top there. You can mount things everywhere. Right there, we got 2 big fans. We got a 240 in the back. Those look like 280s, yeah. So you could put a radiator there if you wanted to. There's enough room because this is, you know, kind of a thick case, but it's not going to take up that much vertical real estate. So yeah, I really like the layout of this. And as far as upgradability goes, well, you got that 6-core CPU. And I think that's just fine for games. But let's say you wanted to start doing some heavy duty, maybe creation. Maybe you wanted to get into 3D modeling or something and you just need a little bit more horsepower. Well, AM4, you can put like a 5900 or a 5950X, which is what I have in here. That would be an upgrade. So say you need some expansion. Well, you got a PCI Express in there. So there's all kinds of things. You have plenty of room for really large graphics cards if you ever did want to expand this in the future. So I've seen people online saying that it's time to like move on from AM4. I don't think it is. I think AM4 is completely fine. You get a good enough CPU in there and you can just upgrade one piece at a time every couple of years or something. And this will last until the end of Windows 10, which is in 2032 if you have the LTSC version. You know, this could last quite a while in my opinion. Baldur's Gate 3, yes, okay, it's pegged at 60, so let's just crank it up and fix it. We can do, I like SMAA, it's the least blurry, and we got it on high, but let's crank this up to ultra. So yeah, you can definitely play the best game of the decade on this machine just fine on ultra. When you get in the cities, you'll probably have to turn it down to high, but I mean, you maybe not, I don't know. You might still be able to keep it above 30, which is all that really matters because this is not something that requires twitch reflexes or anything. And look how beautiful it looks down here. So, yeah, this is... okay, I'll say it's much better than I expected. I didn't expect it to be this fast on Ultra. So, yeah. Really, really, really playable here. All right, let's try out some Cyberpunk. We're going to try a ray tracing low setup right here and see how it runs with a little bit of ray tracing. I think it looks really good. I'll also note that this game looks good even on the low setting because, yeah, it's not like one of these, I don't know, Unreal Engine games or something that just looks ridiculously bad on low, but this is, you know, like the low ray tracing setting. So 92.44 FPS. This is something that you could actually, I've got it hooked up to a 1080p monitor, but yeah, you could definitely play this, you know, 1440p. Let's go ahead and just try the Ultra setting, see how that runs. Okay, performance on Ultra is basically the same as ray tracing low, so, you know, play it either way you like. 96.39 FPS, minimum 72.82. You can game just fine. So here on Doom the Dark Ages, we can actually enable DLSS with the 5050. And then we can come down here and crank up a few different things. Now, Doom the Dark Ages, remember, it requires ray tracing. You can't play this game without ray tracing. Now, fortunately, this engine is extremely optimized. So you can see we're going to crank this up a little bit. So I was able to put this on just the straight up high setting. And that's how we are going to try this out. High with DLSS on quality. And I'm trying to play with a controller so I can stand back, but I cannot play with a controller. But you can see right there with Vulkan, we're getting 84 FPS. And yeah, I need to switch from not controller. And now I can play. God, it's so difficult. How does anybody play an FPS with a controller? Somebody tell me. So yeah, look at this. Between 70 and 85 FPS pretty much all the time. And when you got tons of enemies coming at you, you do need this to be nice and snappy. But even on the high setting, with ray tracing and everything else, it's well above 60 FPS pretty much all the time, and it feels great to play. So yeah, Doom the Dark Ages is totally playable. All right, when it comes to Unreal Engine 5, we've got the Outer Worlds too. And if you like Bethesda-style games, well, maybe you should try this one instead. So this is, you know, it's Unreal Engine 5, looks really pretty. And I think we can run this on very high. We are getting 172 FPS, 148. Outside, it's going to be usually around 100 or so. You got all the stuff going on. But yeah, it's great. Runs really well, looks really pretty. But take a look at this. This is running on low setting. This is what low looks like, and we're getting 250 FPS. So I think, like I said, if a game has good art direction, it can look good even on low. And that's surprising because a lot of these Unreal Engine games, don't have the best art direction. They just rely on the engine's effects. But this one actually has some intelligent placement of lights, nice atmosphere, nice geometry. So it looks good even if you want to like crank it up, or I guess crank it down so that the FPS goes up. But I would play this on high or very high, and it works extremely well at 1080p. It also work at 1440p on this machine. Now, see, fun. This is Hand of Necromancy, and if you like Heretic and Hexen, this is a actually newer-ish Doom Engine game. Highly recommended. It's just a ton of fun. You got the kind of the Hexen style hub world, but I like it better than Hexen. Maybe not as fun as Heretic. That was one of my favorites, but it's up there. So try out Hand of Necromancy if you want something like this. But you have tons of games like this that are a lot more fun than most of the AAA games that are coming out these days. They have cool art styles. They look a lot different compared to these fancy AAA games, but I think there's some charm here. But yeah, you can play all of these games. So another thing you can play on this. When it comes to brand new indie game recommendations, I want you to check out Planet of Lana 2. This game should instantly be familiar to fans of Another World or Out of This World, Flashback, and then in more modern years, we're talking stuff like Inside and Limbo. I think this game has a little bit more charm than Inside. Not quite as much horror, so it depends on what you like. But if you like puzzles and really beautiful exploration, then this is a game for you, but they add an extra element. And for me, the game does not start until you get Mui. And if you played the first game, they added all kinds of controls for Mui. So now, it's kind of weird that you're point and click, controlling Mui. I wish they would have let us just control the thing, like you could switch back and forth. But the whole idea is that once you pair up, you have all of the stuff that you can do, but you also can solve puzzles by, telling Mui to do things for you. So yeah, I highly recommend playing Planet of Lana 2. It was a ton of fun so far, and I'm going to go ahead and finish it up after I finish this video. So I ran superposition because it does the GPU and the CPU. We do this on 1080p on the medium setting, and you can see our score there is actually quite impressive. In my opinion, 17,672, minimum 99.94, and an average of 132.18. Excellent performance here in Valley, 176.2 FPS, score 7371. Minimum never dropped below 38.2. Yeah, we're looking good here. All right, let's have a look at the CPU. We'll start off with the single core performance. And with single core, I wouldn't expect like anything insane with this, but you can see there where it stacks up with the, a few generations ago, the i7s. And it's slightly faster than the single core on the 7700K. So not an extremely fast CPU when it comes to the single core, but remember we got 6 cores and 12 threads, so it's somewhere in the middle here. But they really do get the job done for a lot of the games that I would be wanting to play these days. And that's the main thing for me. If you want to look at the Geekbench score, we got 1925 on the single and 8052 on the multi. I'll scroll down. If there's any in particular test you want to see, just pause it. There we go. There's all the tests, multi-core stuff down there. And then over here is our OpenCL score, quite a bit higher thanks to that 5050. 99,388. Scroll down again and you can see the individual test scores right there. All right, the microphone is sitting on my desk right now, right beside this unit, right beside the fans. I am extremely impressed. This is like Noctua levels of silence. It's really, really quiet. Now, this CPU is not insanely powerful. It's the Ryzen 5 5500, but still it's so quiet. I've had this running for almost an hour now, and we're not getting above 69. It's just staying right there. You can see we got to 70.6 once. Yes, I'm using a PS2 keyboard because it has PS2, and I thought, why not have PS2? So you see I was putting that right next to the unit. 46.5. My room is around 42, so this is raising the decibel levels such a small margin that it's like, who cares? It's perfectly quiet in my opinion. So while I've got this open, I also did a test to see how fast the M.2 is. So the M.2 that I put in there, 3616 on the read and 2939 on the write. It's pretty snappy, pretty good. That's like high-end PCI Express Gen 3 by 4 speeds, and you can see here on the IOPS as well. That's going to feel really snappy, Once we get up over 100,000 IOPS, just general use, this is what, normally if you just say like, this is what it feels like to use the computer. These numbers being high helps a lot. Write's a little bit slower, but the read is what matters for just general use, playing games and stuff. So yeah, pretty good there. Let's check out the temperatures over here. 52 and it hit the full-on write cycles. These are nothing to worry about. I don't worry about these until they get into the 80s or even 90s. So decent cooling as well on the M.2. Before they sent this over to me, they were nice enough to run OCCT, Enterprise, and take a look at that. It's Very similar score, except tiny bit hotter, 71.63. Maybe my room's a little bit cooler, but again, you know, really good performance there. You can see what's going on with the power. This is just some screenshots they put on their desk, so that's kind of cool and gives you a little bit more of a breakdown. And then over here, error detection, everything's looking good. So the question is, like, should you build it or should you buy it put together? That's going to be up to you. I think right now it's a good time to start looking at some of the deals that you're going to get from companies like Apex, because they can grab a lot of these parts in bulk. Maybe it'll be cheaper to build it on your own. That's true. Maybe it'll be cheaper if they've purchased like a whole bunch of these things in bulk and they've got them in their warehouse and they're building computers. Maybe it'd be less expensive or just easier to go with one of these, and you get the warranty and everything else from Apex. If you cannot afford the full price, they do have a rental program, and they've got several different PCs here you can choose from. How does this work, and how is it a little bit different than a lot of the other models that you see out there? Now, most of these things are kind of scammy. Some of them you don't even fully own the computer once you're done, but these, you take your pick. I'm not going to go too much into the prices because they seem to fluctuate monthly with, you know, supply and all that sort of thing, but let's just click on one here. This one's pretty much similar to the one I've got, 5050 in the 5500 CPU. And then after 6 months, this is yours. And so that's the price. Now you'll end up paying, I think, a little bit more because you can come over here and get this, exact PC. And right now it's on sale. If you want to do this program, you can do that. And if you pay everything off on time, they do give you some money back and everything. It's kind of an interesting way to do that. I would rather have a PC than not have a PC, but if you can get a credit card and just do it that way, that would probably be better. So I would probably recommend buying these outright. The rental thing is almost always a punishment for being poor. And you've been punished enough for being poor. We don't need to punish you anymore, right? So they've got a lot of different stuff to choose from. I really liked how this one was packaged as well. Really well done with the packaging. Nothing moved around. Everything was in perfect shape, and the screws were not even loose. Everything was really well packaged. So I feel pretty safe saying that you can order and get things professionally packaged from them. Also, I like the quality of the build. Everything's laid out nicely. I didn't find anything weird about this, and I'm very scrutinous. Is that even a word? And I went through with a fine-tooth comb, and I didn't find any cable out of place. So they did a good job putting this one together. Maybe they knew it was me, so they're special because they put a bunch of stuff on the desktop for me. So yeah. Anyway, you can scroll through and take a look at the different PCs they have right here. So as far as putting it together yourself, you'll save a couple bucks. So that's the thing. If you want to do this, sure. If not, you pay a little bit extra for a custom built. You get the warranty, you get everything done. It's just, you plug it up and go. One thing that is nice is you do have lifetime labor and customer service. I believe they're based in Minnesota, one of my favorite places in the country. Professional wire management. Look at all them wires managed. And you get your 1-year standard parts replacement warranties. So there you have it. We got kind of an interesting mix of old and new to bring you something that's a little bit different. Some of the parts in there predate the AI slop era, and that makes me feel kind of happy and fuzzy inside. Again, also same socket as my computer. I have not felt the need to upgrade. It's like I've got other things I want to do. I've been buying games instead of upgrading my PC right now because, you can get a whole bunch of old games and just have fun. And that's really what this is about. So grab yourself a computer, load it up with whatever games you want, which includes everything because emulators also work on here just fine. Switch will run beautifully, and play some games. Let me know what you're playing. See you in the comments.